The wreckage of the colony ship Prometheus lay scattered across the crimson plains of Vexthar, like the broken bones of some ancient god. Among the twisted metal and dying fires, a sound pierced the alien silence, the cry of a human infant, fragile and impossibly alive. Aurelia descended from the thermal currents above, her massive wings casting shadows across the debris field. The matriarch of the Skyborn had seen 3 centuries pass beneath her flight, had witnessed empires rise and fall among the stars, but never had she encountered a creature quite like this. The infant was pink, featherless, and utterly helpless, a being that by all rights should not survive the next hour on this harsh world. Yet something in that cry spoke to an ancient instinct buried deep within her avian heart. Perhaps it was the defiance in that wail, the refusal to surrender even as death circled overhead. Perhaps it was simply mercy. Whatever the reason, Aurelia gathered the human child in her taloned feet with impossible gentleness and carried him toward the crystalline spires of her eyrie. The Council of Elders protested, naturally. A human child among the Skyborn? It was unprecedented, dangerous, foolish. Humans were the conquerors of worlds, the builders of metal cities that scarred the heavens. They were not meant to nest in the high places, to learn the songs of wind and star. But Aurelia's word was law, and the infant, whom she named Orankale in the old tongue, meaning small thunder, became a fixture in the eyrie. He grew among beings whose wingspans could blot out suns, whose eyes could see across spectrums invisible to most species, whose voices could shatter stone when raised in anger. Oren's childhood was unlike any human's before. He learned to read thermals before he could read words, understood the language of wing beats and talon clicks before mastering galactic common. While other human children might play with toys and tablets, Oren's playmates were juvenile Skyborn who taught him to climb the impossible heights of the crystal spires, to feel the electromagnetic currents that flowed through the planet's core, to see the universe as his adopted kin did. But Oren remained human, and humanity carried gifts the Skyborn had never encountered. His hands, small and clever, could manipulate tools in ways talons never could. His mind, plastic and adaptive in ways the rigid Skyborn intellect was not, saw solutions where they saw only impossibilities. When the ancient mechanisms that regulated the Ares climate began to fail, technology left by the precursors millennia ago, it was young Oren who deciphered their function and repaired them, his human fingers dancing across alien interfaces while the Skyborn looked on in wonder. As the years passed, Oren grew into something unprecedented, a bridge between species, a translator between ways of thinking. When raiders from the Kresh Dominion descended upon Vexthar, seeking to strip mine the planet's exotic crystals, it was Oren who devised the defense. He combined human tactical thinking with Skyborn aerial superiority, turning his adopted people from peaceful sky dwellers into an aerial force that sent the Kresh fleeing in terror. Word spread across the sector. The human raised by the Skyborn, the earthbound who had learned to touch the stars. Diplomats came seeking his counsel. Warlords came seeking to recruit him. Scientists came seeking to study him. Oren turned them all away with the same message. Vexthar was under his protection, and the Skyborn were his people. But protection was not enough. The galaxy was vast and hungry, and Vexthar's resources would eventually draw forces that even the Skyborn could not repel. Oren understood this with the part of him that remained human, the part that could think in terms of politics and power, logistics and long-term strategy. So he built. Using salvage technology from the Prometheus, combined with precursor artifacts and Skyborn bioengineering, Oren constructed something new, ships that married human innovation with alien artistry, vessels that flew through the void with the same grace the Skyborn brought to atmospheric flight. He established a network of alliances, leveraging his unique position to bring together species that had never trusted one another. Within 2 decades, Vexthar had transformed from an isolated world into a hub of interspecies cooperation. The Skyborn no longer nested in isolation but flew as merchants, diplomats, and yes, when necessary, as warriors defending the interests of what had become known as the Nexus Accord. And at the center of it all was Orankale, the human who had been raised by wings and wind. Some called him the Bridge Builder. Others named him the Skywalker. But the title that stuck, the one whispered in 1,000 languages across 100 worlds, was simpler and more profound. Lord of the Stars, Aurelia, ancient now and preparing for her final migration to the high clouds where the skyborn went to die, looked upon her adopted son with pride that transcended species. Orin stood at the apex of the highest spire, addressing a gathering of representatives from across the sector. His voice carried on amplifiers, but his bearing pure skyborn, proud, unbowed, confident in his place beneath the stars. "You were so small," she whispered to him later, in the private language of wing songs they still shared. "So fragile. I feared you would not survive your first night." Orin pressed his head against her feathered breast as he had done as a child. "I survived because you taught me that survival is not about being the strongest or having wings. It's about adapting, connecting, building something greater than yourself." "No," Aurelia corrected gently. "I taught you to fly. You taught yourself, and all of us, what it means to soar." As the twin suns of Vexthar set in a cascade of crimson and gold, Orenkale looked up at the stars that had once seemed impossibly distant. He had been an orphan, a castaway, a creature out of place, but in being raised by wings, he had learned a truth that would reshape the galaxy. Humanity's strength had never been in standing alone, but in learning to fly alongside those different from themselves, and in the spaces between the stars. That lesson would echo for generations to come.